I've worked in America's Test Kitchen for over 20 years, and when I describe what it's like to work there, I usually say it's like Candyland. There are beautiful pots and pans stacked to the ceilings. There's lots of people in white chef coats running around making all sorts of delicious food. And there's always a platter of fried chicken somewhere in the building. I don't know what it is about fried chicken, but someone's always doing some testing on it. And I have eaten a lot of fried chicken over the years, but the fried chicken I'm making today is my absolute favorite because it is a very thin, crisp crust. And best of all, you can make it a day ahead and reheat it, and it's almost like it just came out of the hot oil. So it's very convenient if you're having a party. Now I'm gonna serve that with some collard greens, not your regular collard greens that are simmered for a long time. We're gonna cook them really quickly, and some smashed red potatoes. If you've never made mashed or smashed potatoes in the slow cooker, this is gonna be a good trick for you to learn because it's hands off. The potatoes just cook in the slow cooker for a couple hours, leaving the rest of your kitchen open to make the rest of the meal. Great for holidays, great if you just have a busy day and you wanna get the side dish on early. So here I have 2 pounds of little red potatoes, and I've washed them already, and we're just gonna cut them in half right before we add them to the cooker. I like cutting them in half lengthwise. That way, you know, if you have a biggish one and a smallish one, they actually are the same thickness, so they'll still cook at the same rate. All right, so I'm just cutting each of these in half. All right, so into the slow cooker they go. I'm gonna use a nice big, this is a bench scraper that was designed for chocolate. So this is an average size bench scraper, and this is the oversized one. I call this the guillotine, but it's really great for moving lots of vegetables all in one fell swoop. So into the slow cooker they go. So I'm gonna add 3 tablespoons of olive oil. We're gonna add a teaspoon of table salt, half a teaspoon of dried thyme, a 1/4 teaspoon of ground pepper. And now I'm gonna add 3 peeled garlic cloves, and I'm just gonna smash them with the side of the knife just to help release some of their flavor. All right, into the pot they go. So you're just gonna stir all this together. I know, not a lot of liquid, but the potatoes really will cook through. So now I'm gonna put the lid on, and you have a choice at this point, whether you wanna cook it on high or low. So on high, it only takes 3 to 4 hours. On low, it takes 5 to 6. So whatever works into your timeline for dinner is what you can choose. All right, I'm gonna go on high, 4 hours. All right, so I'm gonna let them do their thing for a couple hours, and it gives me time to focus on the collards and the fried chicken. Now for the collards. I'm gonna cook a whopping 2.5 pounds of collards, which looks like a lot, but it cooks down to nothing when you're done. And the only thing I'm gonna do right now is take the stem out. Lots of ways to get this done. I like using my hands and just ripping it. If you don't wanna do that, you can use a knife. This is also fun. You hold the leaf up like this, and you use your knife like a sword, which is kind of fun. Or if you don't want to use your hands and you don't want to use your knife like a sword, you could lay it on the cutting board. And what you want to do is fold the leaf in half so that that rib is exposed, and you can just slice that out. All right, so I already washed these collards, obviously. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm not cooking these collards in that traditional long simmered way with a lot of liquid and a ham hock, which is delicious. I'm cooking them in a quick way. And I grew up eating kale like this. We ate a lot of kale growing up because my opa, my German grandfather, loved to garden, but he only grew one thing, kale. And so every time we went to visit, we would fill up the back of our Buick Skylark with a ton of kale, and we had kale a lot. A lot of soups, a lot of stews, and every once in a while, my mother would fry it up with a little bacon. And so before you fry it up with bacon, which is exactly what we're gonna do with these collards, you have to blanch them in some boiling water. That softens them, it seasons them because we're gonna add salt to the water, and it makes the frying with the bacon go really quickly. Plus, you can, again, do it ahead of time. You get the theme here. You can do the fried chicken up to a day or two ahead of time. The slow cooker is doing its things for hours, and this you can prep ahead. So this is a great dinner to have. If you're tight on time one day, you can prep this ahead, or if you're having company over. These are beautiful collard greens. That would be a beautiful wall color. I might have to get my paint chips down and figure out what color that is. All right, last leaf here. It looks like enough for an army, but just wait till you see it on the other side. It'll compact to about 1/10 of its size. All right, so I have a big pot of boiling water going over here. Gonna add a tablespoon of table salt. It is a constant discussion in my house whether you add the salt to the water before it boils or after it boils. My husband adds it to the pot with cold water and lets salted water come to a boil. I boil the water first and then add the salt. No right or wrong way, but if both people in your household are on the same page, it's very helpful. All right, in go the collards. Now we're gonna let these collards cook until they're tender, and that only takes about 5 minutes. Love what you're watching? Take your cooking to the next level with our Essential membership. Get instant access to thousands of recipes, tips, techniques, product reviews, and step-by-step videos. Our Members app allows you to search by ingredient, set dietary preferences, and save your favorite recipes. For those looking to level up, our newest feature, ATK Classes, offers more in-depth instruction led by ATK experts, so you can gain greater confidence in the kitchen. Start your free trial by visiting the App Store or going to americastestkitchen.com/YouTube today. It has been 5 minutes. Time to drain the collards. Woo. Now I'm just gonna rinse these collards with cold water to cool them off so they're easier to handle, but also it'll stop the cooking. All right, now one more step to get these collards good and dry. That way they'll fry up nicely with the bacon just before serving. Also, it helps the collards stay overnight if you're doing them well in advance. They won't get too soggy. So this is a nice big clean towel. I'm gonna dump all these collards out. And make kind of a log. And we're gonna squeeze the dickens out of them. Don't use your good towels for this. Use your kind of old stained clean towels. All right, here we go. This also works for spinach and kale. Yeah, all that extra liquid is great if you're doing long simmered collards. You know, that with the ham hock and all those flavorings becomes the pot liquor, which you serve on the side. But for this recipe, we're just sauteing them up and all that liquid would really get in the way. Set that aside. Now let's unwrap this. And now's when I give it a good chop because it's so easy to manage. Now, because it's in log form, pretty easy just to slice it right across. And there you go. So we're gonna set this aside till the very end. Now for the chicken, it's time to make that all-important batter because this is batter fried chicken. That means the chicken just gets one dunk in the batter before it goes into the hot oil. So the texture of that batter really matters. And we're gonna use equal parts all-purpose flour and cornstarch. That's how you get a thick batter that's also crunchy after it's fried. So we're gonna add a cup of flour. Gonna add a cup of cornstarch. I don't know why I tapped the bottom of the cup. I think I like the noise and it's like good luck. Like good luck. All right, now we're gonna add a bunch of seasonings to this, starting with a lot of black pepper. Now, I love black pepper. I like it a little on the spicy side. Now, if you're serving this to a crowd, no shame in dialing back on the black pepper just so it's a little more crowd friendly. But today, I'm making this for me, so all the black pepper's going in, and that's 5 teaspoons. And I just freshly ground this myself this morning. Next, we're gonna add some baking powder. Kind of unusual for fried chicken, but not for a batter. That baking powder will add lift, but also help the chicken brown. All right, so we're gonna add 2 teaspoons of baking powder. Now we're gonna add a little salt, a teaspoon of table salt, some paprika, which is for flavor, but mostly for color. Teaspoon of paprika, and just a little more heat. Again, you can alter this to suit your mood, but we're gonna add some cayenne, half a teaspoon of cayenne. This is part of why this fried chicken tastes so good, because the batter has serious flavor. All right, I'm gonna whisk these dry ingredients together. Now we're gonna add the water. We're gonna add cold water, just 1 3/4 cup. That's the smell of fried chicken batter right there. Oh, it's a good smell. Notice I'm also using a ridiculously large bowl. That's because the batter makes a mess, and I like having the extra splatter room. All right, that's it for the batter. I'm gonna set this aside while we focus on the chicken. And we're gonna brine the chicken in a salt and sugar solution because that makes the chicken taste good. Also, it makes the chicken stay moist as it cooks. So here I have a quart of water. To this, we're gonna add a quarter cup of sugar. Now sugar, not necessary in a brine. It does help with browning and it does add a little flavor. I really don't like adding sugars to brine except for the fried chicken because I love that slightly sweet flavor. So that was a quarter cup of sugar and now a quarter cup of table salt. Ooh. You can be a little rough with the measurements here. All right. All right, so you wanna whisk this all together to make sure it dissolves. All right, I think that's good. Now I'm gonna set this aside and let's get to the main ingredient here, the chicken. So what you want is 4 pounds of bone-in chicken, and that's about a chicken and a half. So it's 3 breasts, 3 drumsticks, and 3 thighs. Now for the breasts, you wanna cut them in half so that they're the same size and they'll cook at the same rate as the drumsticks and the thighs. But I don't really cut them exactly in half. I almost do 2/3 on the thin side and about 1/3 on the thick side. That way they weigh about the same. All right, so into the brine, the chicken goes. And we're gonna brine these just for half an hour to an hour. You don't wanna underbrine it because they won't get seasoned. But if it goes much longer than an hour, it'll get much too salty. So you really wanna time it pretty carefully. All right, so the chicken's in the brine. I'm gonna clean everything up, wash my hands. I'm gonna put the brine chicken and the batter in the refrigerator. Now, we're refrigerating the batter because it'll help thicken up so the chicken is nicely coated before we get frying. All right, so the chicken is out of the brine and the batter's ready to go. Now notice I put the chicken on a nice layer of paper toweling. That's just to help it drain. Also gonna pat it thoroughly dry on top. You wanna get it as dry as possible before getting it into that batter. That way the batter will stick better. The batter will stick better. Say that 10 times fast. All right, so that looks good. Here's that batter that's been refrigerated. Gonna give it a little whisk. Looks good. All right, we're gonna fry the chicken in 2 batches. So I'm gonna take half the chicken, and I like doing all the breasts in one batch and all the dark meat in the other because you cook them to different temperatures. The white meat you cook to 160, dark meat you cook to 175. So just makes things a bit easier. All right, so there's all the breast meat. Oh, coating it in batter. Oh, this is gonna taste good. All right, this chicken is nicely coated with batter, time to fry. And here I have a nice big pot filled with 3 quarts of peanut oil. You could also use vegetable oil, but I love the flavor of peanut oil when frying. Notice I'm using a really large Dutch oven. That just gives you a lot of headroom for any bubbling, so it's a bit safer. And I have a handy thermometer because we're gonna start the oil at 350 degrees, but after you add the chicken, that oil temperature will drop to between 300 and 325, which is perfect. So in goes the first piece. Oh, happy trails, little chicken. All right, 2 more left. Oh, you're gonna be tasty. All right, last one. Oh, you gorgeous piece of chicken, you. Best for last, right, buddy? All right, into the oil. This chicken's been frying for about 15 minutes. I mean, just take a look at this. Hello. My goodness, doesn't that look good? Super crisp crust. All right, again, we're looking for an internal temperature of about 160 because this is the white meat. All right, 160, we're good to go. Now I'm gonna take these out of the oil and put them on a wire rack set in a rimmed baking sheet. Oh, beautiful. I love that sort of dark, almost heading towards mahogany color on the chicken because I just like that browning flavor. Now I'm gonna keep these warm in a 200-degree oven while I fry the second batch. This second batch has been cooking for about 15 minutes, and it is as gorgeous as the first batch. Now again, this is the dark meat, so we're looking for an internal temperature of 175. Perfect. All right, I'm gonna turn the heat off. My mouth is watering just taking the chicken out of the pot. Oh, right there, you know that little like wing ding right on top, that little fried bit? That's my piece right there. It's a little extra crunch. Into the oven this goes. That's just a low oven, about 200 degrees. All right, so now it's time to take a look at the potatoes. They've been cooking away in this slow cooker, again, on high heat for about 3 hours. You can test for doneness because a fork will go right through them. All right, those potatoes are good and tender, so I'm gonna turn the pot off and I'm gonna actually put it back on warm. That just keeps things warm until serving time. Now I'm gonna add some buttermilk and some sour cream because they have a lovely tangy flavor. So that's 2/3 of a cup of buttermilk and just a 1/4 cup of sour cream. And now we're gonna go in with a potato masher and just mash them or smash them. Now this is not gonna be super smooth. These aren't fancy potatoes. These are rustic smashed potatoes. So some chunks are okay. And the potatoes almost take on a roasted aroma and flavor as they cook this way in the slow cooker, which is really nice. All right, that looks pretty good. Again, smashed, not mashed. All right, last but not least, I'm gonna add just a few chives, freshly chopped chives. You want about 2 tablespoons. Into the pot the chives go. Stir those chives in. Oh, that looks good. All right, we're gonna let these stay warm, and now we're gonna focus on the collard greens. Now here they are. Again, that's the blanched and squeezed dry collard greens. And now we're just gonna fry them up in a pan with a little bit of bacon. This is 4 slices of thick cut bacon. I'm gonna cut it down into 1/2-inch pieces thereabouts. Rustic is good with me. Now we're gonna cook this in a 12-inch nonstick skillet. Oh, restaurant trick, push your board off the edge of the counter, put your pan under the board, and then you can just swipe your ingredients right into the skillet. So we're just gonna cook this over medium heat until the bacon is nice and crisp. That takes about 6 minutes or so. That bacon has been cooking for about 7 minutes. You can see it's nice and gorgeous and golden. Now I'm gonna add these collards right to the pan. Oh, when the collards mix with that bacon fat, that is good stuff. All right, so we'll let these collards cook for about 3 or 4 minutes. And as I'm stirring in the collards, I'm breaking up any of those tough bunches that have been pressed together. The heat will help do that too, but it's nice to help it along with your tongs.
Are you ready to take your cooking to the next level?
Introducing the complete America's Test Kitchen TV show cookbook.
Featuring every recipe from every episode of America's Test Kitchen. That's thousands of recipes. That texture is unbelievable. Reviews
Gadgets you didn't know you needed.
and tips.
Yes, there's some terrible choices, but there are also some amazing choices.
We've spilled all of our secrets and included our insider notes alongside each recipe.
Plus, there's a handy shopping guide so you know exactly what to grab when you're at the store.
And of course, it makes an excellent gift. Get your copy today at americastestkitchen.com.
So the only prep left to do for the collards is I'm gonna mince up 2 cloves of garlic. You could use a garlic press for this. That would work just fine too. Sometimes for the collards, I like leaving the garlic a little on the rustic side. I'm not gonna go for a perfect mince. Kind of adds to the whole rustic feeling of the dinner. All right, that's good. Let's collect all that garlic into one place. Last but not least, we're gonna measure out some hot pepper vinegar. Going for about 1/4 cup. There you go. This goes back in the fridge for another day. All right, it's time to add the garlic. And if you notice, I made a little bit of a hole in the center of the pan. That's where I'm gonna put the garlic so it makes nice direct contact with the heat. That way it will saute really quickly without getting stuck up in the leaves. So we're just gonna cook this garlic for a minute or 2. As it cooks, I'm gonna slowly incorporate it into the collards and the bacon. Oh, goodness, that smells good. All right, so that garlic is good and fragrant. Now time to add the vinegar. And that vinegar just needs to cook out for about 30 seconds. All right, one last flip here. All right, make sure everything's equally incorporated. Also, the flipping not only helps you toss things together, but it helps even out the heat in the pan because you're actually taking the pan off the heat and stirring the ingredients. So it not only looks cool, but there is a function to it. Finish it with a little salt and pepper. Collard's done. I love this square bowl. It's pretty, it's an unusual shape, but more importantly, it's part of my wedding china. And I wind up using it all the time for everyday food just because it looks cool and it makes me happy. All right, there are the collards. Now let's get the chicken out of the oven. Oh, goodness. Oh, look at that chicken. I call that beauty chicken right there. Oh, and you can hear how crisp that batter is. And again, when you make this a day ahead and you refrigerate it and you put it in a warm oven to reheat, it gets this crisp again, which makes it my go-to make-ahead fried chicken. Oh, that dark color, are you kidding me? Woo. Oh. Last but not least, let's serve up the potatoes. This is a feast, right? And what goes better with a meal like this than some homemade iced tea? I have a favorite brand of iced tea that a friend introduced me to. We only brew it in the summer. It's a cold brew tea. And you know it's summer if there's a pitcher like that sitting in the fridge. My husband Ian loves iced tea. He has it with almost every meal, including breakfast. All right. Ooh, don't mind if I do. I love these smashed potatoes because they're not wet, they're really creamy, and they have that slight roasted flavor. The collard greens with the bacon and that spicy vinegar. Every time, I love it every time because it's not very wet. You get the bacon, you get the spicy vinegar, and you get that backbone of the collard greens. It's just a perfect balance. Hold on, excuse me, having a minute. This is so good. Oh, perfect crunch. The chicken has flavor because of the brine, and there's a little bit of heat in the back of my throat because I used all the black pepper. The perfect fried chicken dinner. I hope you give it a try. See you next time.
If you're ready to take your cooking to the next level, head over to americastestkitchen.com and get a free trial of our ATK Essential membership. While you're there, you can sign up for our free email newsletters and download our app. So, what are you waiting for?